In Korea, there's a game considered legendary called Chronicles of Arcana. After years as the most played game, one day it came to an end and was discontinued. On the same day the servers were shut down, the world of Chronicles of Arcana materialized in the real world. This rupture in reality also caused the monsters that existed only in the game to emerge in the real world. Humanity was on the brink of extinction, but with the game materializing in reality, the players' characters from the legendary game were brought into the earth. People who played Arcana transformed into their characters in the real world. It seems that when you awaken and become your game character, it's not you who controls your body. Now you're the one giving orders to your character and watching your character live in your place in the real world. Our protagonist is named Hoyeol. His character in the game is named Grandfell Claudi Arpeus Romeo. When he was a teenager, Hoyeol created his character in the game. It looked like a hideous thing, but that was just the initial idea. At the time he played, his parents were poor, so he couldn't play the Chronicles of Arcana game for long because the augmented reality equipment was expensive. Even renting the device was expensive. Because of this, his in-game character only reached level 55, which was very little compared to other players at the time. Cloud's backstory was quite simple. He is the successor of a noble family that met the same fate as the Uchihas, and he was the only survivor of it. Now, to get his revenge, Cloud has become a demon hunter. Cloud's personality reflected that of a 12-year-old boy when he created Cloud. After Arcana appeared in the world, awakened players started to be paid for protecting the Earth from monsters. However, Cloud, besides being weak at only level 55, is a demon hunter class. In the game, the demon hunter class was less played because the class skills were too weak against normal creatures. See the demon hunter against the normal monster. Now see another class fighting with a sword. A bit of a disadvantage? At the beginning of the game, while all classes were doing hunting missions, demon hunters had to do food delivery missions to gain experience because they were so rubbish at the start. However, when it came to killing demons, no class compared. They were the monsters, and that's the only positive point of the class. That's why other players always saw this class as a useless one. Now, in reality, Cloud discovered that the Demon Hunter city was destroyed and all demon hunters died. Maybe Cloud is the last living demon hunter. He stopped playing when he was a child, and his character was already weak at the time, back at level 55, and he continued without evolution years ago. And even after the Earth became arcane, his awakening as Cloud was delayed. Arcana was brought to the Earth years ago, and many things were destroyed, but people were able to rebuild things with the players, and everyone's life returned to normal. However, currently, the negative emotions of people are serving as food for the demons that inhabit the Earth, possessing people and starting a new era of danger with demons as protagonists. Our story truly begins with a person looking at their phone, waiting for the protagonist to arrive. It's the group leader. Cloud arrives 1 minute late. The leader greets Cloud, the new member of the group. Look at the leader's hand. It's huge. It's bigger than his head, if you look closely. Cloud joined a group to do rupture cleaning missions. Ruptures are portals that normal humans can't see or be affected by. Only the awakened from Arcana can see and interact with these portals. Cloud, gazing at the rupture, notices that the portal they are heading to is at 19.8% destruction progress. When it reaches 100%, the rupture breaks, and the monsters are released into the real world. Have I seen this somewhere else before? It's not unfamiliar solo leveling, right? Hence, players are allowed to freely invade any portal they encounter to clean everything inside. But then there's also the risk of getting screwed over inside. However, the average level of the other players doing these ruptures is 200. These groups there, it's impossible for him to even get close, imagine getting in. But luckily, there are also awakened people who are at a lower level, so Cloud managed to join a group. Inside the rupture, their group keeps formation, but they don't find any gnolls, who were supposed to be right there at the beginning. The healer of the group says, his leader somewhat strangely, that it must have been another group that passed through here before, so there's nothing to worry about. Everyone agrees and continues peacefully. Cloud was the only one who didn't find this normal man, but even then, that doesn't mean much. village. Further ahead, they encounter a group of gnolls, and the group leader starts running like crazy. The group didn't even understand and just followed the guy. Cloud just keeps an eye while the fight happens in front of him. Hoyeol, who is not Cloud himself, was glad they didn't need him in the fight, also because he's useless from being so weak. However, Cloud, on his own, opened his inventory to choose a weapon. There were only junk. The intense fight in front of him, a stray arrow that he ended up dodging. No big deal. This wretch wasn't weak, was he? As creatures were raining arrows on the group and were starting to break through the tank's defenses, the group was screwed. Meanwhile, from afar, the team leader stood still without helping. The most screwed member of the group started yelling for him to help. In this distraction, he got hit from behind. When the blade was almost entering his eye, the monster was struck by an arrow so strong it died. Cloud used the weak bow he had in his inventory and did that. The blonde guy thanked for the help, and the other one, back there, was almost fainting from fear. While the other fought, other monsters were going to attack her, who was further back. The girl froze with fear. In the blink of an eye, Cloud was by her side and shot another arrow. With that, the girl snapped back to reality. She cast an area fire magic and shot fire in all directions. With this attack, you could even have some monsters for dinner. I'm sure, to this day, I haven't seen anyone turn down a barbecue. Only vegans. After the damage, Cloud tells the girl to check if the other members are okay, now that there are no more monsters. The member who almost lost his eye went to confront the group leader. Why did he suddenly go after the monsters and then stand still without helping? He wanted an explanation for why he did that. It was a very simple answer. The guy even starts laughing in front of them. The member who almost went blind gets even angrier because he finds it funny. As for the girl back there, she gets even more terrified because her magic fire went out completely, man. With that, Cloud's natural enemy ability activates. It increases the user's power when fighting demons, meaning Cloud realizes that their leader is possessed by a demon. The buffs from his ability being activated prove that their leader is now a demon. For the rest of the group, even with the change of place and the appearance of the leader, they don't believe in that demon stuff. One of them questions. Everything around starts to darken, and suddenly the screams are heard. The reduced mindset effect, when a demon is watching, affects the group. When you see someone acting crazy on the street, is it because a demon is watching? Cloud tries to land a dagger blow that was easily defended by the demon. The demon questions if Cloud doesn't mind killing the leader's body. That's because the demon only possesses that body. To defeat the demon, it's necessary to kill the host's body. Cloud didn't even listen and was thinking about how to get through the armor. He tried to attack and missed. Cloud stabbed the dagger in the creature's neck from behind, even managed to crack the armor, but it wasn't enough. The demon tries another attack, shouting that humans are false. That's because Cloud was friendly to this human he possessed and now doesn't hesitate to try to kill him. Before he could finish speaking, he took another dagger attack he didn't even see coming. Cloud hesitated at nothing, and besides, his blade is made of silver, and it seems that's bad for demons. Cloud is known as weak, but something doesn't seem right about this. Ruthlessly, Cloud says he doesn't talk to prey. Therefore, trying to dialogue is pointless. What gives strength to the demon are the negative emotions of the person. In the case of the leader, it's the feeling of inferiority compared to his older brother. Even though his older brother doesn't see any problem with him not being strong, he torments himself about it, right? This feeling made a demon influence his actions, and now he was almost managing to possess the poor guy's physical body. He was screwed. At that moment, he also realized that because of this, he put his friends in danger, which makes the leader's mindset even worse and all this atmosphere weighing. So Cloud cuts off the guy's hand. The demon now got angry with him. How come he does this in another human's body? Cloud looks down disdainfully and says he understood. He sees the body owner holding the demon for him to attack himself. Cloud recognizes this as the leader's pride. And if the body owner is holding the body for him to do that, why not? Cloud gives him a straight cut and cuts off the head from the body. Incredible, but the twist was that the guy was all in one piece, trembling in fear. And Cloud tells them all to be proud and not to be afraid of demons. Another thing is that the attacks of a demon hunter only affect demons. Their leader, named Xiaomin, was in shock, realizing he was almost killed just now. Well, in the end, things worked out, but Cloud saw that loot is what really matters, meaning he's still broke. Sometime later, Xiaomin went to inform the guildmaster about what happened inside the rupture. Initially, he hadn't believed the report, but after his younger brother confirmed the story, he even dropped the tea on the floor. Folks just see the guy's level while While Cloud is level 55, he's 368, man. He ranks 11th among barbarian players. The guy is the leader of the Gaon Guild. His room at the top of the building is guarded by 2 lockers, to give you an idea of the guy's importance. Xiaomin also says that he gave up the idea of being a fighter like him and will take over as the guild's analyst. After so long, his brother asks if it wasn't a lie. Xiaomin gave up comparing himself to his older brother and realized his true role, and that was thanks to the protagonist. According to Xiaomin, if this guy who saved his brother was able to kill a demon, his stats must be great, especially his mentality. Moreover, if he used the dagger, it's impossible to say which class he should be, which makes him even more curious. Now that his brother has accepted his role as an analyst there, he handed him the contract to sign. And I just found out that I was wrong, folks. Taemin is the younger brother, not the older one. I got confused here. He says he's grateful to his older brother because he only got where he got because of him. Xiaomin is glad to hear this from his powerful brother. However, upon reading the contract, something surprised him. Returning to Cloud, he just realized that he's now at level 67. Defeating that demon earlier raised him more than 20 levels. It's funny seeing him take a shower when he doesn't even need to. But since he has to follow Cloud, he goes and mimics everything he does. When it's time to sleep, Cloud says the room is a mess and cleans everything. Not even after coming back from a dungeon does he rest. The guy's a machine, and after cleaning everything, he cooks his own food, 100% healthy. This reminds Lee Hoyeol that the traits he gave to the character Grandfell Romeo Cloud and the rest of the name that I don't remember were applied to him in reality because of Cloud's healthy habits, meaning he's getting healthier as a result. Apart from the awful class, Cloud is talented in magic, can mimic enchantments just by looking at them once. He's intelligent, healthy, handsome, meaning this guy is perfect at everything he does. While he was making a list of the things he is, a message arrives for him, an invitation to join the Gaon Guild, which is Xiaomin's guild, the guy he saved earlier. He doesn't even read the message because he's stubborn. He says he'll ignore it now because he's busy. If it's longer than 2 lines, I don't even read it. In the game, Cloud hasn't evolved much, but he has plenty of potential for it, so he's going to make up for lost time. He has to research some tutorials there. If he wants to learn magic, he'll have to study. The response arrived at the guild with just a no for them. Xiaomin doesn't know if he received the invitation to the other guild for him to refuse like that, in that way. Taemin is now getting angry. The top guild in Korea offering a deal where he would get 95% and the guild 5%. There was no way to refuse that, and the guy refused with just a no. Xiaomin is kind of speechless. Cloud ignored the message because he was focusing on watching magic tutorials on YouTube, and as he studied the concepts, he made several amazing conclusions. The real protagonist sees the super complex notes of the concepts and is even happier that the kid is a genius. Now that he's sure of Cloud's great potential, the protagonist decides to distribute the skill points he gained when he leveled up. He distributes the points and focuses on mana, which was a bit low. Moreover, the protagonist remembers Cloud's past as the last survivor of his clan, even though he wrote that past for him. The protagonist decides to put a point in luck for Cloud. It's just his intuition, which must be a good thing to do. The next day, when brushing their teeth, they notice a notification has arrived. Maybe it's not a coincidence, but he was lucky to receive a class mission. He immediately starts researching about class missions. After Arcana came to Earth, it became very rare for someone to receive a class mission. The reason for this is that the NPCs who give missions in real life died, so there's kinda no way to have a mission. How did he get one? I don't know. Researching on the PC, he sees that when someone receives a class mission, it even makes it to the news. As an example, the rank 1 Paladin class giver who received a class mission. Class missions are like a mission given only to one person among all those who have the same class. When Guiver received his mission, it was reported that countless other paladins who were anxious went into despair because they weren't chosen. In other words, a class mission is something so unique and rare that a level 67 shouldn't have gotten it. This confirms that Cloud is the only remaining demon hunter, so at this level, he already received this mission. When Cloud became a demon hunter in the game, the admission ceremony was to climb to the top of a 1,000-meter mountain climbing on vines. After that, They had to live in messier facilities than my house. To eat, they had to go down the mountain they climbed to eat and then climb back up. Just remembering that makes the protagonist sad. Cloud, who lived through it, defends, saying that it makes him stronger. I don't know what. When they opened to see what the class mission will actually be, it was the worst possible. There's a place here called Anti-Arcana Union, a branch of Korea. It's a facility formed by the former game developers who were hired to analyze arcana information and help players. The guy's main job is to identify when the game updates will be incorporated into the real world. Right at the end of their shift, they identify an update, and what they see chills everyone's blood. The office turns into chaos. Some talk about quitting, others advise turning off their phones because they'll be flooded with calls. The update that shocked everyone is a new demon that is coming soon, the new Rift, the fortress of Count's family. It's only missing Dracula in the name. New monsters in the update, like the Bloodied Bandit level 230, Bloodied Beasts levels 220 to 250, Count Ascura's Soldier level 300, Count Ascura's Knight level 350, Count Ascura's Devotee level 390, and the Mighty Count Ascura level 430. Mounts there and the Prota level 60. The two of them think that even if they gather a bunch of top rankers, it won't be enough. They consider the best. They are sure that this rift will burst and all these monsters will come to Earth. Meanwhile, Cloud received his class mission called Prologue of the Counterattack. The first part is to eliminate a demon. It's done. The next is to train his weak body. It's in progress. He drinks his tea and continues reading. Run 20 kilometer, 1,000 push-ups, 500 pull-ups, and 300 squats. He'll have firm glutes. The next day, Cloud was doing the training and then suffering from the pain. Days passed, and as they did, he managed to do the daily training more and more quickly until finally his goal of training his body was achieved. A status window shows that the daily goal was completed for a week and rewards him with 2 more vigor points and 2 more dexterity points. It's known here that items to increase a status point cost a fortune, and just with this mission, Cloud earned 4 grace points. His doubt now was whether he would gain more status points every week. If so, he'll do the mission 10 times a day, if necessary. Cloud can't even drink water, all messed up. At this moment, he discovers the news about the latest Arcana update, about how guilds are giving up on the new Rift that was released, and reported that the level 430 raid, where the boss is Count Ascura, a vampire demon. It was said on a podcast that this raid is the hardest in history. In the newspapers, they say the same. The most worrying thing is that the top-ranking guild refuses to try to close this rift. Basically, that's the strongest thing in history. The guild players don't even want to try to enter because death is the fate. The biggest problem for players is that demon-type monsters get stronger with each battle they win, plus demons debuff opponents. It's normal for the player to be at least 10 levels higher than the demon to be able to face and defeat it. In other words, Count Ascura, who is of a higher level than all the players in the world and is still a Super Saiyan. Damn it! With each fight, he'll get stronger. Now consider Cloud's class mission. The third step, defeat a vampire demon. The only vampire that currently exists is Count Ascura. The guy was frozen with fear. He's obliged to defeat an invincible enemy now, and while the protagonist feels fear, Cloud, the brave one, only feels the urge to fulfill his vengeance objective against all demons. The next day, after the protagonist got over his fear, he was wondering where this Count's rift appears. It's in Russia. To get there, the best way is through the Mage Tower. In this tower, there's a magical portal that leads to anywhere in the world. And this tower is in Korea, and that's why several guilds from all over the world have branches there in Korea. He immediately checks on Google Maps and takes the bus to the tower. It says there it's 1 hour and 21 minutes. While the protagonist researches how to get to the place, Cloud just goes without thinking. Leaving without planning is dangerous. The protagonist was relieved when Cloud stopped, but in fact, he had forgotten to bring tea for him to drink. Meanwhile, in front of the Mage Tower, a crowd of reporters is there to find out what decision the guild will make. The big guilds taking the the portal at the tower is the fastest way, but it consumes a lot of mana from the person, so it's likely that the rankers will go by plane to Russia. But to the surprise of the reporters, the Gaeom Guild was in full force at the Mage Tower. They surrounded a group from all sides to ask the obvious, to ask if they will go to this new rift and if they have a plan to face the Count. The guild leader, with a little smile, tells everyone that yes, and there's no problem. They'll enter the place, which is a lost cause, and try their luck, right? The brother was even sweating cold with fear of the leader saying what he shouldn't. But his talk is very honest and correct. He says that all players are cowards in abandoning their responsibilities, and suddenly the second group appears too. Locke level 399, rank number 2 hunter. This guy is the master of the Shining Guild. One of the members of this guild says that Gaeom's words are too harsh. Locke says to ignore it. He must just be nervous because Gaeom's guild was the top one in Korea and recently has been losing ground to foreign guilds that came to the country. Because of the Mage Tower there, and seeing another guild coming too makes Gaeom's leader nervous, his older brother then says that he doesn't need to care about the others and should focus on their work, passing through the reporter's gate. Xiao Mime asks about that guy he was supposed to recruit, since that day he forgot to look for Cloud again. Meanwhile, Cloud took the bus to go right to the Mage Tower, and on the way he was studying more lessons about fire magic. The guy is a dedication machine. There are 3 levels for activating magic: inspecting mana, interfering with mana, and then manifesting it. On his first attempt, he makes a flame in his hand inside the bus and scares everyone. Of course, the driver warns that using abilities inside the bus is dangerous. Cloud replies that it would be dangerous if he weren't there, but respectfully puts out the fire. Cloud then decides to take a look at his abilities. He just learned a fire ability, but it wasn't added to his abilities list as it should have been. When he finally arrives at the Mage Tower, he doesn't get anything from there. Watching everything carefully, he sees what must be the portal, and that makes him feel something strange. It's as if he could manifest the magic of that portal himself, and when he was about to try something, an unaware person comes without looking ahead and bumps into Cloud and throws him into the portal. "Look ahead, you idiot," Taemin, angry with an employee, says that person looked a lot like the Cloud they were after. Poor employee. He was sad because of the scolding he received. The leader of Gaon starts the strategy meeting. He says that the rift looks like this image. The outer circle is the territory of Count's family and where everyone should die if they fail. Meanwhile, in Russia, journalists are live streaming the state of the rift. The YouTuber is doing a live broadcast showing the location when, walking around, he gets angry, saying he found this entrance first and tells him to leave. Cloud is just a little angry because of being pushed, says he's impatient now, and walks away, snorting with anger. This rift seems like reality is breaking. At the entrance, it's shown that the recommended level is 240 to 270. The destruction progress is already at 9.7%. Cloud's only concern is that it could be a little warmer from here on out. Cut to another place with a player destroying some monsters. The hot group tells her to slow down because it's hard for them to keep up. The girl's name is Leona Bellucci, level 348. Leonie Bellucci was annoyed by the nonsense her companions were saying. On the other hand, Cloud had already entered the rift. Even in that place it was cold, and he said it was a great spot for hunting because the weather made his blood boil. At that moment, a pack of level 230 bloodthirsty wolves appeared. He was only level 67, but by activating his natural enemy ability, he thought he could win. The Count's dogs had chosen the wrong master. He would kindly help those insignificant creatures feel the fear of being hunted. Meanwhile, other players were also killing the bloodthirsty wolves. Leonie Bellucci was irritated because the monsters seemed endless, cursing them as she killed them and saying, "Die, you damned mangy bitches!" Her men asked the leader to calm down, while others said that was her nature. They had already killed many, but it seemed to have no end. Leonie found it strange that the wolves showed no fear. Some asked for explanations and others asked her not to act smart. Leonie said it was rare because they had never seen these animals complain or look in pain while being hunted. At that moment, they heard several howls howls that didn't sound normal, seeming scared but making no sound when they were killed. Leonie said they would all understand if they observed better. Cloud could feel the mana at the tip of the arrow, allowing him to shoot ignition arrows. Lion had seen Cloud sitting around several dead wolves and wondered what it was. Seeing the arrows, he wondered if it was a magical ability, but Leonie asked who that bastard was, as he was wearing a suit and shoes for an incursion and was drinking tea amid the flames.
What the fuck?
One of her colleagues said he might be a streamer. Perhaps he had followed a group and lagged behind. Leonie called him an idiot, saying it was dangerous and that it was no place for civilians. Cloud heard her but ignored her and continued drinking his tea, which irritated Leonie. As Leonie prepared to complain, her colleagues told her to wait as more enemies were appearing. They were level 230 bloodthirsty bandits. Leonie asked everyone to take their positions. Her companions were fighting and asking for caution, as many of the monsters were armed. Leonie replied to take care of themselves while she quickly began killing the bandits. However, more bandits with bows appeared from above. They were surrounded and asked the leader what to do. At that moment, Cloud sighed, and Leonie, irritated, asked if he hadn't left yet. The bloodthirsty bandits began shooting arrows, making Leonie nervous. But Cloud was inspecting the mana within the thermos and realized that interfering was also easy. He just needed to manifest it. To manifest the ability on the desired scale, he would need an incredible amount of mana, which he couldn't handle at that level yet. If his assumption was correct, he would faint just by trying to manifest it. However, he thought, what if these magic spells I'm using aren't abilities? Activating his ability, Cloud created a wall to block the arrows. Leonie wondered if it was alchemy. She had never seen or heard anything like it. Other players wondered if he was an alchemist, as alchemists were production workers. Cloud thought it was possible to change the shape of something if he could interfere with the object's mana. It was more like alchemy than magic. At that moment, the enemy moved, attacking from the side of the wall. Cloud said he would have to postpone his tea time. The battle was about to begin, and they were determined to fight the bloodthirsty bandits. Leonie asked Angel to go to the back while they fought. Cloud was already invoking arrows. One of the players asked for a healer, as one of his colleagues was injured, and Cloud killed a bandit who was attacking him. The guy was surprised by the arrow and wondered if they had such an archer in their group. Leonie, seeing this, wondered if he was an archer, but the wall before seemed like the work of an alchemist. She was even more surprised to see that now the arrows had fire. So he's a mage? She couldn't believe it. Alchemy and magic, who the hell was he? In the end, they killed the bloodthirsty bandits. They told Leonie they searched around and didn't believe there were more. She told them they did a good job, but seeing Cloud, she thought that bastard was frustrating. He was alone in a dangerous rift with a suit, besides not answering any of their questions properly. He didn't seem tired either, which was embarrassing for her. If it weren't for Cloud, they would be dead. She wondered if he was a ranker, but she didn't know anyone like him. He was quite attractive, and she thought of thanking him. Cloud looked at her, which made Leonie feel embarrassed. She wondered why he was looking at her. Did I stare at him for too long? She thought. But she wasn't looking because she liked him or anything. Cloud kept looking. If he wants tea, he'll have to have some with me, she thought. At that moment, Cloud called her, asking what was going on. But Cloud said that even if she stared at him, he wouldn't share his tea. Meanwhile, reporters were reporting in front of the rift in Russia. The world's attention was on the update, as it had the highest level boss ever seen. It was the first of 3 rifts that would come in the update. There were hundreds of rifts. All needed to be completed to advance to the next one. The Shining and Gaon guilds and others were already inside and wondered which guild would be the first to complete it. The first guild to receive the completion title around the territory would definitely gain global fame. Another man was watching the broadcast and asked another guy if there were new videos. He said everyone was in the middle, but Shining was the fastest. The guy asked to get an interview as soon as the Shining Guild came out. At that moment, he saw something and ran out. The other guy told reporters that someone had completed the territory outskirts and asked them to follow him. They asked if it was the Gaon Guild, but they couldn't see because of the number of trees. The director asked if it was the Shining or Gaon Guild, but he said no and was surprised because the guild that apparently completed the rift was the Berserker Guild. The director didn't believe it, as the Shining Guild was still in the middle and wondered why it seemed all right. At that moment, they saw Cloud. They said he looked like a member of a European guild, but a Korean was with them. So he went to talk to him and asked if he could do an interview. He asked what his relationship with Berserker was, but Cloud asked him to step back as he was out of patience. In fact, he was in a hurry because it was very cold. Other reporters were congratulating the Berserker Guild for completing the rift. No one expected them to be the first, but Leonie had no comments. She asked them to interview Cloud because he was irritating. He made his way alone and completed first, but looking around, Cloud had already left. Her colleague said he left first and would go home a bit. This irritated Leonie, but her colleague asked her to calm down as he might have a reason. Leonie said it was one because interviews could change a guild's value and status. While another rift was completed by the Gaon Guild, seeing the Berserker Guild, the leader of the Gaon wondered if they were not the first to complete the rift. At the Gaon Guild camp, they were watching the news. Leonie said that the Gaon Guild was not the only good one in Korea. The Gaon leader was irritated because she looked at him sideways and said that after obtaining the first completed rift. Others wondered who could be as good as Gaon in Korea. His brother said he believed she was referring to a Korean player she met in the rift. The leader asked if it was the mythological guild, which was 41st in the world ranking, but they were still in the rift. After thinking for a moment, only one person came to mind: Cloud. He was taking a hot bath and said he felt revitalized and would take a nap. Cloud had an obsession with the cleanliness of his house. Reviewing his window, he received a poorly sharpened level 180 sword and was now level 86. He thought it wasn't much for completing the hardest rift, besides being dangerous. Magic used less mana than his abilities. Thanks to this, he could use magic much better than the abilities he had. Cloud said that mana regeneration was very low, which was a fact. It's not like he had any accessory or equipment to help him regenerate mana, and the Demon Hunter class had few benefits. There were no related abilities. It wouldn't be bad if it weren't for the Berserker Guild. He would have thanked them if he knew who they were, but Cloud said it was because his abilities were not enough. This surprised him, as he didn't know how to be humble. If someone underestimated him, he would show his worth. But, on the other hand, if someone overestimated him, he would meet their expectations and make them a reality. Cloud said the next rift was the Count's family territory. They didn't have time to relax. He couldn't rely on magic. He needed to improve in combat. And for that, he found a suitable test subject, the players fighting with him. The short-haired player with dual daggers was the most prominent. If he could copy that player's movements, but the basics were important, he selected the day's mission to train his weak body. But dishes come first. As soon as he finished cleaning, he would start training. At night, Cloud was training while listening to the news. They said that 95% of the territory's outskirts were completed, and soon the Count's territory would be open for conquest. But the destruction rate of the Count's territory increased to 60%, despite not being open yet. At this rate, it could rupture, worrying professionals. The Gaon Guild leader said it was impossible, as only one day had passed. His brother said the time limit for completion became shorter, as there were stronger monsters inside. The reporter's director didn't believe the monsters were getting stronger, but they didn't know, because the analysts didn't know either. It wasn't about how well the company was doing. They would be finished if the rift ruptured. Once the monsters started to come out, all the civilians and players in the area would die. Cloud, seeing the news, said it made sense that no one knew because this had never happened before, being information available only in Exon. He needed to hurry. A vampire is a creature that shares its authority through its blood. Count Oscura shared his authority with the monsters within the territory's outskirts, and when they died, the authority naturally returned to its owner. He probably distributed his authority to the monsters. That's why the monsters were stronger, and the destruction progress increased. And if they attacked the Count's territory, there was a risk that the Count's fortress would shatter immediately afterward. Cloud said the Count was not worthy of the Oscura title, because an aristocrat does not take back what he gave to others. He would take care to punish that bastard who was staining the honor of the aristocracy. Hoyeol thought Cloud was incredible, but he needed to sleep. Cloud said he could sleep once he was dead. Then they would go to the Count's territory, suitable for levels 350 to 400, 5 hours from the rift's collapse. In front of the Count's rift, a streamer said there were about 5 hours left before the rift collapsed, and there were some guilds in front of the rift. The Gaon guild captain told his brother that competition in the rift was inevitable, as there would be fewer rifts. They would have to compete with other guilds for experience and loot. They would be fine as long as they didn't face Shining, which was in the north, and believed they would fight against the Sky, which was in second place. He thought they would fight for first place. Berserker was with the Second Sun Guild and the Bohemia Guild. Several guilds had their eyes on them for completing the first rift. The previous streamer followed them and was listening to everything. The Gaon guild leader noticed the arrival of another guild. It was the fourth-ranked guild, Inazuma. Their leader said it was a coincidence the Gaon guild entered the same rift as them. His name was Hisagi Kazuma, level 376, Magic Spearman, Guildmaster of Inazuma. The streamer was surprised by their arrival, as the Inazuma Guild was from Japan, and their subscribers wondered if it would be a competition between Korea and Japan. The Gaon leader said they insisted quite a bit on not establishing a headquarters in Korea, and the Inazuma Guild leader said it was better to take the plane to Russia than to establish a headquarters in Korea. The Gaon leader asked if he wanted to fight, but the Inazuma leader replied that the Gaon Guild was not worth it. Several reporters saw them and were excited about the possible fight. The Gaon Guild leader's brother said the biggest problem was the rift's progress rate, that it was a waste of time to compete. But someone behind said that Inazuma was the fourth-ranked guild, while Gaon was behind in fifth place. Hisagi Kazuma from Inazuma was number 6, and Nam Taemin from Gaon was far behind in 11th place. This made the brothers irritated and want to fight Japan. They arrived first, and it wouldn't be good to let them enter with them. The number 5 Gaon and the number 4 Inazuma entered the Eastern Rift, two guilds famous for their rivalry. In the Northern Rift were the number 1 and number 2 guilds, Shining and Against the Sky. In the Southern Rift were Berserker, ranked 30, Second Sun, ranked 7, and Bohemia, ranked 3. The progress rate had already reached 80%, causing fear and anxiety worldwide. Cloud Grandfell was sitting drinking tea and realized something in his last rift. Running out of mana was dangerous. He needed to think of a way to use mana efficiently during battle, and this was the result. Magic drawn by the alchemy ability that transforms things into what he desires. At first, he used some from the ground to transform them into a teacup, but the more complex the design, the more mana he needed to spend, making it inefficient for use in battle. He realized another thing while contemplating this problem. Seeing the level 300 Count Oscura's soldiers, he wondered if that was the authority the Count gave them because it was pathetic. When he used to return to the original state, it consumed almost no mana. He would call this reverse magic. Meanwhile, in the deeper part of the Count's territory, Nam Taemin from the Gaon Guild was killing the Count's soldiers. He found it strange because there were few soldiers. He had only killed 10. One of his group reported that on Inazuma's side, it was the same. He believed they killed another 10 too. They were separated upon entering, but it didn't make sense for it to be the same on both sides. At that moment, Hisagi Kazuma arrived and greeted Nam Taemin, who responded that it was peaceful in that place, but wondered why he acted like they were friends. Kazuma didn't understand why he hated him so much, but it made him want to kill him. Nam Taemin received a call from his brother, who was finishing the dungeon analysis but couldn't send the video. He also said he was close to the ruins, which looked like a square. Hearing this, his brother told him to get out of that place immediately. At that moment, something appeared. They were Count Oscura's level 350 knights. Enemies emerged from all sides, and Nam Taemin from Gaon asked them to prepare for battle. A cavalry had much more destructive power on flat terrain. Even if their tanks were in front, they would suffer lethal injuries. Nam Taemin didn't know what to do. Kazuma said he didn't like the idea, but asked to take care of their backs. His brother, on the call, said that the United Under Heaven Guild suffered significant damage from a cavalry ambush. They asked not to fight on flat terrain. They should retreat and lure them into a narrow alley. Retreat where? At that moment, someone behind used magic, creating a wall of stones. Cloud was approaching from behind. The stone pillars killed the knights. Kazuma, upon seeing Grandfell, wondered who that monster was, as he summoned all that without even reciting a spell. He wondered how much mana he could have, wearing pants and shoes, without any battle equipment. Who is he? He thought. More of the Count's knights arrived, and they noticed that the stone pillars were slowing down the horses. Nam Taemin from Gaon thanked Angel and activated his exclusive barbaric berserker ability, which exponentially increased attack power and reduced damage. With the stone pillars, this fight could be won. Kazuma wouldn't be left behind either and asked his men to attack. All this battle and killing were filmed by the previous streamer, but he focused on Cloud. His chat wondered if he was a support or a mage. They didn't know who he was, but he summoned all that without any spells and looked criminal in that suit. Moreover, he was fighting the cavalry alone. Everyone thought it was amazing and asked if anyone knew Cloud's class. He drew a dagger with 100% durability. Seeing the dagger, Cloud didn't want to reduce its durability, but the people on the stream, seeing him, said he was observing the knight who seemed to like it. Cloud wanted to interfere with the mana of the dagger to change it and then return it to normal, so the durability would be reverted. When he transformed the rock into a teacup, it had the durability of a teacup, and when he used return to the original state, it became a rock again with its durability. If return to the original state really worked, he changed it to a silver stinger, which had low durability but could inflict critical damage. After killing the knight, he leveled up, and the dagger's durability remained the same. Nam Taemin from the Gaon Guild was smiling when he saw Cloud. Now that he saw him in real life, he wanted him even more, not wanting him to go to another guild, considering that the guys from the Inazuma clan also saw him. The streamer approached Cloud and asked if he could grant an interview. Several players approached Cloud, saying he was amazing and asking if he was Korean or Japanese. He introduced himself, saying he belonged to the Gaon Guild and had sent a recruitment message, but Cloud interrupted him, saying he found no formality, so he wouldn't accept questions. This was broadcasted on several platforms. Lox, the second-place holder, had already reached level 400. Lox was watching the video where Cloud killed several knights. He asked his group what they thought of him. Camilla, 7th in the player ranking, and Dimitri, 8th in the ranking, said they didn't know, but Lox thought Cloud was incredible. At that moment, another woman approached, saying his power was interesting, like magic, but different. Her name was Jessie Haynes, 4th in the player ranking, Dark Mage class, brilliant executive. She said Cloud was fun and asked Lox who he was. The Berserker Guild had also seen the news about Cloud. Hisagi Kazuma was on a call, saying they should bring Cloud to their guild. The rift was safely cleared in the Count's territory. The Shining Guild and Unification fought for first place, but Shining took the first position. There were still rifts left, and the collapse rate was 72%. Due to the high risk of the rift, there was unprecedented tension in the players' camps. If the rift collapsed, Russia would be annihilated. Analysts talked about Cloud, seeing no accessories on his body, but he said he simply had none. He decided to see the rift loot. It was a rare item, the first he had picked up since becoming a player, a necklace imbued with a blood curse. To know its effect, it needed to be purified. These cursed items, when the curse is lifted, have a random effect with a certain probability. It's a gamble item. The probability of getting a good option is extremely low, and most players throw them away. But there was another way to use the cursed item. With the exorcism ritual ability, one of the two unique abilities of the demon hunter. The basic effect of exorcism is to attack the demon without harming the bearer, but it's different when there is an offering. Literally, you can invite the demon into your consciousness. If the mental strength stat is low, there is a risk of being possessed, but you can fight in your image world where everything is advantageous. Nam Taemin from Gaon read that the rift had progressed to 83%. At that moment, an earthquake occurred, and the news said that the Count's territory had collapsed. Russian authorities were issuing warnings for the evacuation of combatants around the rift. The United States and Europe advised Russia to close its borders as the Count's territory had appeared in reality. Cloud went to the site and was determined to enter alone. Seeing the statue at the entrance, he thought it was just another one. Calling something like that a fortress was too much for a disgusting vampire. Lee Hoyeol said that in the history of his childhood, the Cloud family's mansion was 10 times bigger than than the Count's castle. The statue moved and wanted to attack Cloud. Everyone thought he should flee and that Cloud would need help. But with a wave of his hand, the statue shattered into pieces. The Shining Guild was surprised to hear the sound. They said it was the exact same sound as in the video they saw. Hearing this, Jesse Haynes decided to enter the rift. Inside, everyone was surprised to see that Cloud defeated the monster with one attack. Fortunately, it was just a rock. He had already built and broken many of them. Cloud said that the material, texture, and even the shape were deficient. The Count was proud of those low-quality statues and put them in the garden. Several players advanced, as the Guardian had died, and this was the opportunity. A message arrived. The class missions were updated. It required making the vampires feel the fear of being hunted. Hoyeol didn't understand what he meant by fear of being hunted, but Cloud said there was no time for hesitation. Hoyeol asked how he would scare them. The Count was level 430, and Cloud was only level 100, but he was a demon hunter. A moment later, he reached a banquet hall and was surprised to see the portraits. The Gaon Guild had entered the rift, saying they were fine but couldn't breathe properly since they entered the corridor full of paintings. They felt something constantly watching them. The portraits were the problem. They decided to burn them all, but for Cloud it was different. He said the portraits were very poorly drawn. He thought the Count was a strange type for eating while looking at those portraits. The statues were also poor. He felt sorry for the rock that turned into pieces, but the portraits were a problem. Narcissism was a disease. At this point, the fort's structure and circulation were also disordered, with roads that branched unnecessarily and even blocked corridors. Everything was lamentable in Cloud's eyes. He found some stairs leading to a door, the place he was looking for. The repugnant smell was strong. He said it was the center of the Count's territory, where Count Oscura was. Seeing Cloud's calmness, he knew no other player had entered yet. At that moment, Jesse found him, saying she had seen him and that his magic was strange. He was surprised as she used levitation. Jesse said she was so curious she couldn't bear it and asked what kind of ability that was. She had watched the video of him dozens of times and still didn't understand. Cloud grabbed her by the shoulder and put her on the ground, saying she had no manners. That was the foundation everyone seeking to learn should have. At that moment, his natural enemy reaction ability was activated. The Count asked who dared to wake him, but they were just two insignificant people. Jesse felt immense intimidation seeing the Count and asked Cloud if he was okay. Cloud told the Count that it was funny. He was just a humble and ugly vampire. Taking off his necklace imbued with a blood curse and choosing a sacrifice, the crime of daring to call himself a noble would give him a serious education, activating the exorcism ritual ability. Hoyeol thought that with this he could call Oscura into his consciousness and fight. Count Oscura asked about that dirty necklace. It was a shame. He liked Cloud's cheeky attitude, but he would die anyway. Jesse said the Count was absorbing the power he shared with his followers. There was already a level difference of more than 300 with Hoyeol. If he absorbed all the power, the difference would increase. But the necklace activated, and the Count was scared, asking what that was. He didn't know how, but he was in another place. He said Cloud was doing strange tricks, starting to attack him. Seeing everything destroyed, he said he expected much from a human, but he would turn to ashes. After all, he was an insignificant being, but Cloud had never been burned. He asked the Count if that was what he saw, and asked him to look closely at who died. The Count started screaming, saying this couldn't happen, that it was a trick. Jesse didn't understand the situation. Cloud was standing still, but Count Oscura was out of control. Cloud told the Count he seemed terrified. Using the exorcism ritual, it was an ability that could only damage the possessor, but the other effect revealed itself when using the exorcisms. It was the demon being invited to a demon hunter's ritual. Everything depended on mental strength. There was no reason for the demon to shake Cloud's mind. Hoyeol didn't know it would have this effect, and Jesse asked what it was. She said it was an incredible sight, but asked what he did to Count Oscura, who was screaming into the air, attacking where there was no one, trying to flee in fear like a simple human. The system informed that Count Oscura was feeling fear. Fear was a sense of terror of humans. With this, the mission was complete. Jessie asked if it was an illusion, a new magic, and asked him to teach it to her. Cloud drew his dagger to kill Count Oscura, but the Count suffered no damage. Realizing this, Cloud told Jessie that it was over. Jessie asked him to explain how he did that. Cloud wanted to explain, but his level was low, so the deal didn't work. Jessie realized something and activated her magic. She said that if she caught the Count and became stronger, it meant that the new magic was so powerful. Hoyeol and Cloud didn't understand. Then, Jessie took it upon herself to kill Count Oscura. With that, her level increased greatly, and Jessie looked at the Count's ashes. Hoyeol thought that, as weak as he was, the Count was level 430, a top player's level. Jessie said the smoke was endless, and picking up some ash on her finger was eating the ashes. Hoyeol thought she was crazy for eating that. At that moment, a new mission appeared. Birth class mission. It was the last demon hunter. It asked to illuminate a world covered in evil. Jessie's colleagues arrived, asking if she had killed Count Oscura. Jessie didn't know how to respond. Looking at Cloud, she said she would do her best. She introduced herself as Jessie Haynes, and if it wasn't rude, wanted to know Cloud's name. He thought she did her best, even without etiquette, but decided to reward her. Cloud introduced himself. The news was reporting what happened in the rift. A woman on the phone was talking, and her daughter asked her to listen to the news, saying her Uncle John was on the news.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed it and share with your friends. See you in the next video. Bye for now.